The reason I brought my phone up here is not because I'm addicted to it, which I am. I'm going to time myself to make sure that I don't really go too far over the limit.
I don't know that I can get down.
Well, first of all, welcome to our guests, most of whom I know. I think for some of you it's your first time here. And I know my first time at Creative Life, I thought it was so laid back. And that was on a Sunday. And then I came on a Wednesday and I found it was even more laid back. And it was kind of hard to get used to because I grew up Catholic, as you'll hear as I go through my talk. We got one more announcement which we almost forgot about, Lisa. And that is, starting in February, our 9:30 service is going to change its format. The first half hour will be meditation. The second will be a talk, and of course there'll be the collection. There's always a collection if you come to a place like this. During January, it's common in all the spiritual centers like this one to talk about our basic principles, our basic beliefs in science of mind. And Jesse mentioned that on several occasions. Lisa mentioned, Reverend Lisa, why don't you give you a title tonight? Reverend Lisa mentioned it last week. So whenever we give a talk, it's really always about our basic principles, but we kind of couch them in other language, as you'll see as we go along. I picked the theme for tonight's talk because of something Jesse said a while ago. He said, I dare you to just go out there and pick someone at random and just look them in the eye and say, I hope you get what you deserve. Now, I don't know who did that. There were a few bruises when I came back the next week. But of course, in our teaching, we don't mean it in that sense of the word. However, if you go out, which I did on Google, and just Google that phrase, I hope you get what you deserve, you're not going to come back with anything positive, I can assure you of that. The nearest you'll come to positive, and it really isn't, is karma. Or you might possibly come up with sin and judgment, and of course, as you all know, that's not really positive at all. It's even in the popular culture. There's a singer called Jared Neiman. Do you know him? He actually fell out with his girlfriend fell out with him, and so you can tell what he thought about her because he wrote a song that's entitled, I Hope You Get What You Deserve, and he wasn't being kind to her. There is something, however, in the universe that's called cause and effect, and we're going to talk about that later, and I'll talk about my experience of it fairly shortly. However, it doesn't involve karma. It doesn't involve the building up of all this negative stuff, and then you've got to repay it over either this lifetime or another lifetime or many lifetimes. So it isn't that. And it's certainly not sin and judgment. You know, growing up Catholic, I learned a lot about sin and judgment. And a lot of people think of God as this old white guy sat on a throne somewhere up there in the clouds, and he's observing you. And he's watching what you do, and if you do bad stuff, he's going to punish you. And if you do good stuff, he's actually going to reward you. But it's always a he, it's always this white guy. When I'm at the gym, I listen to podcasts, usually from other spiritual centers. And I was listening to one from a preacher in Florida. I forgot his name actually now. And he was talking about this idea, you know, this anthropomorphic being that's sitting watching everything you do. And he said, I think it's kind of creepy. He said, especially when I go in the bathroom and I think there's this old white guy who's watching what I'm doing in the bathroom. It's really creepy. So it's nothing to do with that. In fact, in our teaching, which is really about oneness, you know, we look on whatever it is that brought all this into being as, sometimes we call it God, and I know some of you here are allergic to the word God, but just get over it for tonight. Or spirit, or however you want to term that one which brought everything into existence. And the fact of the matter is, it cannot judge. It cannot judge you because it is all there is. And in order to judge something, you have to do that from the outside. So if you judge a person, you judge a situation, you are outside of that situation judging it. So if spirit were to judge you, it would actually have to be outside of itself. If it was outside of itself, it wouldn't be all there is by definition. So to judge it would have to come out of itself, and then it wouldn't be all there is. So spirit cannot judge you. There is no divine judgment, because it's just not possible. So there's no external punishment, there's no external reward. So what is there then? There is simply the fact that we live in a universe of cause and effect. Jesus often talks about the kingdom. And what he actually says you deserve is the kingdom. And Ernest Holmes, in our textbook, our Science of Mind textbook, talks about this on a couple of occasions, and you can actually look it up if you want and give you the references. It's on pages 109 and 404. I know some people write it down, some don't. And why is that important? And where is the kingdom? The real thing is, what is the kingdom and where is the kingdom? So if you listen to Jesus, he told us that the kingdom of God, the kingdom of heaven, is inside you. It's in Luke 17:21. So it isn't something external to us. It's internal to us. So you deserve the kingdom, and the kingdom of heaven is inside you. So in other words, you've got to look inside yourself for the answers to what is coming up. Now this is in stark contrast to the way that I grew up. I grew up a Roman Catholic. And in England, you had to use the word Roman Catholic because the Anglicans, Episcopalians here, said, we're Catholics, you're Roman Catholics. Now, you know I like puns, so that means you travel because you're Roman Catholics. Sin and judgment was the main model. It's true. Sin and judgment was the main model. And my mother drilled this into me. In fact, they even set up a confession system in the Catholic Church so that you can go and get rid of these sins. The role models that they offered us were for people who lived a life expecting a reward. But they weren't expecting a reward in this life, they're expecting a reward in the next life. Just like with punishment, yes, it will happen in this life, but by and large, the church taught that punishment occurs in the next life. And they had two versions of it, which I'm sure most of you are familiar with. One is called purgatory, and the other is called hell. And believe it or not, I was taught that if you actually ended up in purgatory, it was a really good thing. So even though you were being punished, it was a really good thing because you'd not gone to the other place, you had not gone down there, right? But one thing always puzzled me. It said you would be in purgatory for a while until you got rid of all these stains of sin. Now I always thought, well, if beyond this life there is no time, how do you spend time in a place that doesn't have time so that you can get rid of your sins? But nobody ever explained that to me. But it's true, isn't it? I mean, the ones of you who grew up Catholic, I mean, you know that's true, right? And excuse me, I do have a crib sheet here. The other thing was about riches, or getting possessions. You know, the church taught us it wasn't good to want riches. However, they wanted money from us. And I could never figure out how could they get money from us if they didn't want us to have money in the first place? And when we gave them that money, what did they do with it? So the bottom line of all I'm saying now is that I got this from Jesse, Reverend Jesse Jennings, that all of this is crowd control. That religion started off as a good thing and ended up in most cases in crowd control, at least most major religions. So if there's no sin and punishment, what is there? There is cause and effect. I mean, this is a universe of cause and effect, but it isn't a universal tally system. It's not a system that's building up karma or measuring karma. It's simply the fact that when you do something, something happens. You do something good, then ultimately something bad is going to come from it. If you do something you do something good, something good's going to come from it. You do something bad, potentially something bad is going to come from it. And the universe is built on cause and effect. So if you go out and slap somebody, the odds are they're going to slap you back, right? If you steal from your company and you get caught, you'll go to prison. It's not because you committed a sin, it's just that you did something, and that was the punishment that happened for it, just because it's cause and effect. That was the effect that came out of it. One way that we are impacted, though, by what everybody does is raise consciousness. And Carl Jung introduced this into the human race. I don't know if he dreamed it up or he thought it up, but he talked about race consciousness. So everything you think and do is stored in the race mind. And you are impacted by it because you're connected to it. And that's why we get talk of things like flu season and similar things. If you look at animals, though, they don't have flu season. I don't think our cats have flu season. I don't think our dog had flu season. This is coming from the race mind, and we're impacted from it since the day we're born. We're also impacted by everything that we see and hear around us, even before we're born. Modern theory says we're impacted by this. So we have to be careful that we don't absorb it, and having absorbed it, we have to figure out how to get rid of it. I like what Gary Craig was the founder of Emotional Freedom Technique, as some of you know. And he had a really good expression for it, at least in my opinion. He said it's the writing on the walls. So what it is, it's stuff that's built into your subconscious that predisposes you to do things. And this is something that we have to get over. And it's all part of what's going on within our psyche. However, we have one thing as human beings, and possibly some of the other higher animals have got it as well. We have one thing going for us, and that's the fact that we are at choice. We can choose. We can choose what we accept into our consciousness. We can choose what we put there. We can choose what to believe. We can choose what not to believe. Choice is a major part of being a human being. It's also a major part of what we do here at Creative Life. And to have choice, it means that you have to live in awareness. And to live in awareness, you have to be mindful. You have to be mindful of what's coming into your mind all the time. So when something goes wrong in your life, you have to have the ability to look at it and decide, do I want to accept this or not? I want to reject it. When you want something in your life, you have the choice to bring it in. You know, the Bible, and I know some of you are allergic to the Bible, but there's some good stuff in there, trust me. In Thessalonians, it says, rejoice always and pray without ceasing. Give thanks in all circumstances, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus for you. In other words, what it's telling us is to live in awareness. It's to be aware of what's going in our lives. Because when you're aware of something, you have the ability to do something about it. The first time I came here to Creative Life, it was on a Sunday morning. The service was 9 o'clock then, wasn't it, Barbara? Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we've been pushed to come here by a lady that several of you here know, and that's Linda Martin. And I know some of you know Linda Martin. And she was a practitioner here at the time, and she kept begging us to come down here. And I kept resisting, and Barbara went along with me. Then one Sunday morning, she said, look, I don't care where you go today, I'm going down to Creative Life. So, being a good Catholic, I went to the first Mass at St. Simon and St. Jude in the Woodlands, and then I came down here. And what I heard that day, it was Reverend Jesse Jennings speaking here. It changed my life forever. And it was this. He said, there is no such thing as sin and punishment, but there is cause and effect. If you do something, there is an effect from that. That was something completely new, something I never thought about. It changed my life. It freed me up. So I kept coming back for more, and as you can see from where I'm stood now, I came back for more and more and more. We went through the ministerial program, became a practitioner, then became a minister. The Catholic Church, on the other hand, eventually said, I was real active in the Catholic Church. I was a lector, Eucharistic minister, I taught religion there. And they said to me, they sent someone to tell me, look, you're going to make a choice between coming here or going down to creative life. And I think any group that tells me to do that, I don't want to be a part of it. So I came here, and I've been here ever since. So that is how I got here. However, I've got to really say one thing recently, which really surprised me. Our daughter-in-law, Carol, is a Catholic, but she had stopped going to the Catholic Church. She lives in the Woodlands. She stopped going to the Catholic Church for a couple of years, and she went to the Methadone. I know they don't like us calling it the Methadone, but you know the building, I mean. And she liked it there, but eventually she decided that her home was back in the Catholic Church. So when she went back and spoke to the priest, she said there was absolutely no recrimination. There was no talk of sin and punishment. She said it was a positive experience. And he knew that occasionally she will go back to the Methodist Church because she liked some of the messages there. So it is changing. You know, people in the past who became saints, I guess, people like Meister Eckhart, Julian of Norwich, and others, have been preaching this kind of thing for a long time. So after all these centuries, like 500, 600, 700 years, it's finally coming to pass that change is coming. The present Pope Francis, as you probably all see, is a different kind of Pope than the previous ones. So there is change even there. So if you were to ask me if I'm a Christian, I would say what Ernest Holmes said. The answer is yes, if you're talking about the teachings of Jesus. If you're talking about Christian dogma, then probably not. However, I do believe in, I do study, and I do it to the best of my ability, attempt to practice what Jesus taught us. And what Jesus taught us was pretty simple, as we mentioned earlier. When you ask someone what they deserve, you deserve what Jesus told us. You deserve the kingdom. It is the Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. And the reason is that Spirit can only give. Spirit does not have the ability to not give. In order to take advantage of this, we have to practice belief. And belief is thought plus feeling. So it's a big thing that you will learn if you come here. Belief is thought plus feeling. Thought on its own has no power. It's like a car without any gasoline in it. However, the feeling on its own has got no power either, because it's got the energy, but it doesn't have any direction. It doesn't know what to do with it. So the two things combined are what gives it the power. Faith or belief is thought plus feeling. And in Hebrews 11:1 it says, "Now faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen." So in other words, we have to go out on a limb, and we have to be prepared to know that what we want is coming to us. You know, one thing that always really struck me about Jesus was he always asked people, when he was going about healing people, curing them, he would ask them what you want. What is it that you want? And the reason he would do that is because in order for something to happen, even though Spirit by its very nature wants to give you all the time, you have to be able to accept it. And Jesus always wanted to make sure that the person to whom he was speaking, who was looking at, and who was going to get healed, was prepared to accept that healing. And one example would be, there was a beggar, a cripple, at the gates of Jerusalem. And he asked Jesus to heal him. And Jesus asked him, "Is this what you really want?" Because if he were healed, he would have to find a new occupation. So oftentimes, when we ask for something, we have to really know what it is that we're asking for. And we have to be clear. And we have to decide, yes, I want to accept this. However willing Spirit is to give to you, you have got to be prepared to accept it. So yes, you deserve the kingdom. However, you have got to be prepared to accept that the kingdom is coming into your life right now. It's something that's really simple, but trust me, it's not easy. It's something that we need to practice constantly. Barbara and I were in a network marketing company many years ago, and a gentleman by the name of Bob Proctor, I think some of you may have heard of him, he was in the movie The Secret, used to come and speak at these events, and he would tell us all about belief, all about putting our thoughts into the universe. I didn't know it at the time, but he was really talking about what science of mind believes. Eventually, I came to understand what he was saying. And he also, like our founder Ernest Holmes, studied Thomas Troward. But he also studied another guy called Wallace D. Wattles. Has anybody heard of Wallace D. Wattles? Yeah? David, yes?
I've heard of him. I've heard some.
You've heard about him. You're not quite sure what he did. Well,
I've read about the book. I've not read the book.
Okay. Well, he actually wrote several books, and one book that he wrote, I've got it here, it's a battered copy, you can see how much I've used it. It's called The Science of Getting Rich. And he wrote this round about the turn of the 20th century, so somewhat over 100 years ago. And Bob Proctor took this and he actually made a seminar out of it. I want to read you part of it actually. Don't worry, it's not long. I won't do a Jesse and read 2 pages. I'm just going to read a bit of it. Wallace D. Wattles says, "There is a thinking stuff from which all things are made, and which in its original state permeates, penetrates, and fills the interspaces of the universe. A thought in this substance produces the thing that is imaged by the thought. A person can form things in his or her thought, and by impressing his or her thoughts upon formless substance, can cause the thing that he or she thinks about to be created. You must lay aside all other concepts of the universe than this monistic one. You must dwell upon this until it's fixed in your mind and has become your habitual thought. Read these creed statements over and over again. Fix every word in your memory and meditate upon them until you firmly believe what they say." The ones of you who are familiar with our teaching will know that that is talking about the law. So in our teaching, we believe that God is love, giving, but God is law. And the law is what receives the impress of your thoughts and produces the form into the universal plane. If you want to think about it in scientific terms, you can also do that as well. If you want to think about the field. You know, you think into the field and it produces things. So all this time ago, Wattles was talking about this purely from a materialistic standpoint. In Science of Mind, we go a bit further than that, and we talk about it in more spiritual terms. So to come back to where we started there, I hope you get what you deserve, means that I hope and I pray that you eventually find out that the answer to your problems lies within yourself. That God wants to give you everything, but you have to be prepared to do your work and allow it to come in. The movie The Secret was a good movie in many respects. However, it did miss out one thing. It kind of implied that when you put your thoughts and feelings into the universe or into the universal mind, the law, that things would always just automatically pop out. It can happen, but normally what happens is you're given guidance, you're given direction, things show up. But your part is to take advantage of that. The Quakers have a great saying, pray, and move your feet. So your job is to live in awareness and see the things that are coming up. You do your bit, you pray. God does God's bit and puts things around for you to take advantage of. And then it's your job to pick them up. So 3 things. One is, recognize who you are and whose you are. Apply spiritual mind treatment. Spiritual mind treatment is what Lisa did at the beginning and what I will do to end this talk. Not supplication to an external deity, but recognizing that God has already put everything there for you to take advantage of. And then remembering that belief is thought plus feeling. So that when you think of something that you want and you wrap feeling around it, that produces the charge in the law, in the universe, to bring it about. So you deserve the kingdom. The kingdom of heaven is within you. You turn inward to yourself and not outward. You believe, thought plus feeling. You apply spiritual mind treatment. Our homework as a group, and I'm saying ours because it's mine as well, is this. For 10 minutes every day, set 10 minutes aside, think about what you want with feeling. And when negative thoughts come up, put them to one side. So just set 10 minutes of your day. 10 minutes in any day is not a big deal. It may seem like it, we're always rushed. Put 10 minutes aside and do that. And live in awareness. Just be aware. You can practice awareness by practicing mindfulness. So for instance, when you clean your teeth, clean your teeth. Don't be thinking about the shopping. And this is a big one. When you drive, drive. Most people out there on the roads today are not driving while they're driving. They're doing something else. So you can practice mindfulness, which helps you to live in awareness. And finally, spiritual mind treatment. If you don't know how to do spiritual mind treatment, there's 2 possibilities. One is you can seek out a practitioner or a minister who'll do it with you or for you, or you can learn it. And as Lisa said, we have a class coming up in February, and this talk was not a plug for the class, by the way. It's just coincidental. We have a class coming up in February called Heartfelt Living, and in that you will learn about spiritual mind treatment. So as I conclude today, I'm going to end with the spiritual mind treatment. So I invite you to relax. I invite you to accept these words should you choose to do so. It's entirely up to you. And this is how spiritual mind treatment works. There's one life. There's one source of all things. There is one that brought everything into existence. It brought the stars into existence. It brought the earth into existence. And through other things and other beings, it brought everything that you see, feel, and hear into existence. It brought this center into existence. It brought me into existence. It brought every single person in this room into existence. Therefore, every single person on this planet is an expression of that one source. And because they are an expression of that one source and they are one with that source, they know that what source has in power is available to them at their point in this universe. So I claim that this is available to me now, and I claim for each and every person in this room their highest good. I claim for them peace, love, and I claim that they are open to accepting that which is good for them. I claim for peace in our world. I claim for calm in the Philippines with the volcanoes, in Mexico with the volcanoes. I claim for peace, calm, and light in Puerto Rico that's been impacted by the earthquake. And for every place on earth, I claim, going forward now, that we begin to learn that we are one human family. I claim this because we are all expressions of God. And in joy, in gratitude, I release my word into the divine law and allowing it to happen, and so it is.